All right, good morning, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the first ever head of state presidential debate. All right, so what I want right now is presidential candidate Jasmine Flores and presidential candidate Maerine Aranda to come to the center. We're going to flip a coin and decide who goes first. Okay, which party goes first? Jasmine? Maerine. Come here. Arm wrestle? Since Maerine was first here, call it here. It's tails. So you will go first. All right. We'll start. We will start. We're going to go ahead and have a seat. A 3-minute or so speech by each vice president candidate. All right. Vice president candidate stand-in, Crispy Agency.
As Vice President, I will help whoever Maerine has to do pretty much immigration laws reforms. And since immigrants being like a big problem right now, I think it needs to be fixed since our last president couldn't do it. Now, how we're going to fix it is by just restricting off any kind of law enforcement, because how we're going to, reform immigration with all these cops coming in and just disturbing the peace. I mean, that's not good. Like, just restrict them off and try and tax. And tax is also easier.
All right, Nicole, Vice President for the Blue Party. I'll start on your word.
What was the president? Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Nicole Moreno, and I am this year's vice presidential candidate vice presidential candidate. And on this Friday morning, I would like to speak with you about this year's presidential candidate, Ms. Jasmine Flores. Ms. Flores is one of the amazing people you ever meet in your lifetime. She is she's a hard-working person determined to reach her goals. Ms. Flores is not only a good friend, but she also is a great leader. I vow to you that she'll make this great nation victorious. With her leadership skills and her ability to motivate others, I guarantee she'll make it happen. So I guarantee she'll make it happen. And I'm not just saying this because she's my friend. I'm saying this because, the characteristics that she has are true. The citizens of the United States of America would be lucky to have a fantastic leader like Ms. Flores. To put her leadership skills to the test, Ms. Flores and I would like to work on improving education. As everyone knows, education is key. Education can lead to a better life. What are we without education? Please tell me, what are we? Every day we are taught new things, therefore we are educated. However, we want to improve it. One of the things would be getting children and young adults excited about learning, so that way they can take their education more seriously. We want to teach these kids that it's not easy to get a free education and that many other people around the world don't get the same opportunities as they do. These young adults don't realize kids from all around want an education, but some of them don't get to have it. With a heavy heart, it's sad to say that many of these young adults don't take advantage of the privilege they are given. That's what Ms. Flores and I want to change. We want these kids to look at education from a new perspective, and maybe they'll realize how important their education is.
followed by the president, will be followed by the presidential candidate. Okay, so going first, 5 minutes speech.
morning. As you know, my name is Maerine Aranda. I am the 2015 South Hills JRTC presidential candidate. The topic that I will be speaking on today is immigration reform. Woo! Immigration reform has been a tough debate in the last decade in the United States. According to the New York Times, there are 11.7 million undocumented immigrants in the U.S. There are another 1.9 million documented in the U.S. with temporary visas. Total number of foreign students is 886,622 students. In the 2013-2014 academic year, approximately 440 STEM students, or science, technology, engineering, and mathematics majors, foreign graduate students, completed their degree programs in 2011, including the 10,750 PhD students. Foreign students reached the U.S. after satisfying the university admissions and visa requirements. They overcome all cultural shocks and become American little by little. They usually pay more than twice in tuition than local students in public universities. Many of them work as graduate assistants, teaching of research. Some of the research funds directly come from federal authorities, including NSF and NASA, and so forth. Some of them have multiple degrees from the U.S. universities. Most of them finish the master's or doctorates. They publish papers and research projects. Some of them work as PI or principal investigators to their projects. Many of them obtain patents for their innovations. These students pay income tax from their first earnings. Local grocery stores, to car dealers and credit card companies, depending on them to grow their business. After 5 years of staying, their taxes status changes to citizens. In the U.S., 11.57% of the population above 25 years old have graduate or professional education. They build good or excellent credit, history, and driving history. All these criteria are good enough to become eligible to be a permanent citizen, also known as a lawful immigrant or green card. However, the current U.S. broken immigration law does not allow them to become permanent residents easily. The point that I'm trying to bring up is that even though they're immigrants, they're doing their best to get a better education in the United States of America. And I feel that if they're working that hard to achieve this, they should be able to stay. And that is all I have to say.
All right, should be followed by the blue party candidate, Jasmine Flores.
Good morning, my name is Jasmine Flores.
Morning.
I'm the presidential candidate for this year, the South Hills ROTC. Oh gosh. Too shy for this.
You can do it. You can do this.
And something we would like to improve is education for young children and for teens as well. Since a lot of people know the teens don't like going to school because they're either being bullied or they just don't like it at all, or because school makes them feel bad in general. And one of those reasons school makes them feel bad is because they make a big deal out of their grading system, which is something we should improve, because a lot of schools focus more on their grades than they do on whether or not they're actually learning. And even though those grades can sometimes tell them whether they're learning or not, it won't fully let them know, because some kids cheat. And we don't want that. We don't want kids to cheat. We want them to learn on their own. And also, some students kind of have problems like depression or anxiety, and schools don't really help us go with that. And there are counselors, but sometimes teachers brush them off and say, well, whatever, you could do it. Just because someone says it doesn't mean you have it. They see it as an excuse to get out of something. And that sometimes makes people not want to come to school at all, because it just brings them down. And so we want to improve that. We want to let people know that, no, we understand you have those problems, and we will help you with that. We'll help you get over it. they don't listen to their students. If the student is even telling the truth, they won't care because they see something that isn't true in them. Like, there are liars, and some students that are liars will tell the truth, but the teachers don't care because they lie most of the time. That sounds right. Some teachers even get mad when a student doesn't even understand what they're learning. They keep repeating a question over and over for them, and the student still doesn't get it, and they need to understand what is going on. Like, some teachers just don't care. They'll just say, well, you'll have to come to tutoring or you'll have to learn it on your own. Well, sometimes they can't go to tutoring. Sometimes they have other things they have to do, like they'll have to go home, watch their siblings, cook dinner, or sometimes they'll even have to stay for a sport, and sometimes that is pretty late. So kids can't do that. So teachers have to take some time to understand that not all students are there most of the time. And they have to focus on them sometimes more than the other kids, which can sometimes be a little bad because some kids might be annoyed by that. But I think if they took the time to actually listen to the kids who need help, then everything would be okay. And they would know they were going to learn.
Okay, so both presidential candidates would step to the podium.
Anybody want to say
Fight to the death.
As a reminder, okay, so what I'm going to do now is I'm going to ask you a series of questions. Okay, we had in advance and prepared for us. All right, so the format is, since flip the coin and Maerine lost, she will go first. All right, so I will ask her a question. She'll have 1 minute to answer the question. Jasmine, you will have 30 seconds to for a rebuttal, and then Maerine will have 30 seconds to for another rebuttal. Okay, and then the second question will be given to you. We'll have 1 minute to respond, and then we'll just continue to alternate for a total of 6 questions. At the end of this, time permitting, you'll have the opportunity to ask each other questions, okay, about the differences in your platform. All right, as always, keep it professional.
No fighting.
And yeah, no fighting.
Only throw fists.
Okay, so, Maerine. All right, so as you know, the Kyoto Protocol is a treaty that most of the nations in the world have signed. All right, but America has yet to sign this treaty. The two sides are, the first side is by signing it, it would cut carbon emissions and stop the effects of what some people perceive as global warming.
Yep.
All right. The other side is, if we do sign it, then that's going to cause industry a lot of money because they will have to put these systems into place or reduce manufacturing. So I guess the question that I have for you is, should America sign the Kyoto Protocol, which is intended to limit global warming?
Well, I honestly had to look it up, and I read about it. I did my research. I believe that they should sign it just because it's going to be bringing the pollution emission down. And in my personal opinion, I mean, okay, if they have to spend money to make it a better place, as they say, if they have to spend money to do it, spend money to do it. That's my honest opinion on this.
True.
All right? Jasmine?
Okay, but what about the people that lose their jobs because of it?
And the economy is gonna drop low.
No background?
I mean, it happens either way.
I know, but
Whatever
where are
you
they
put in
gonna
place.
go? Because there's gonna be.
Okay, let's stop. I'm going to remind the candidates, okay? The time for question will be at the end of the debate. At this point, the rebuttal is just for you to lay out your plans, okay? You have your time. No question the candidate until the end. Right now, just tell everybody what your stance on the Kyoto Protocol is, okay? Okay, go ahead, Jeff.
Well, I agree that yes, they should sign it because it's saying that they want to stop polluting the earth, stop using so much of the emissions and all that. And I mean, if they sign it, then that's good because global warming is happening, and because of that, we're also causing superstorms like the Hurricane Katrina and all that.
Ready to stop? Maureen, 30 seconds?
Nothing to say?
You can do it.
Just think of something. And emphasis.
I really have nothing to say. At this point.
Then I'm gonna stare at you for 14 more seconds.
My jobs.
She did bring up some good points about jobs, though.
True. But what about the kids?
Okay, the next question is for Jasmine. All right, so a hot button issue these days in the news is about the Second Amendment. The rash of mass shootings that have been going on. Okay, there have been some advocates to infringe upon what people believe are their Second Amendment rights to own arms, or all arms. Okay, so should people have the right to purchase automatic weapons is a right guaranteed under the Second Amendment?
I don't think they should be able to purchase automatic weapons because even if it's just for a store to sell or just for families using them for protection, I mean, do families really need an automatic weapon for protection when all they could have is probably a simple handgun or a simple pistol? And yes, that's still dangerous. You still got to think more about the automatic weapon because they have pretty bad recoil sometimes. And if a little kid gets their hands on it and they shoot it, the recoil could hurt them and possibly kill them, or it could backfire and hit someone else, which could kill them. So I don't think they should purchase those weapons.
Fair point.
You have 30 seconds to rebuttal.
I believe that people, if they get the necessary documentation, legal documentation, and go through the necessary procedures to actually get the weapon, that they should be able to have it. Yes, there are cases where maybe the child gets a hold of it, but if you do have a weapon, you should know the responsible steps to put it up and make sure it's away from your child.
You have 30 seconds for redirect.
Well, I mean, even if they do get the proper procedures and all the training, I mean, sometimes parents, they could be crazy. They could want their kids to know how to defend for themselves, so they would also put them through that training as well. And it could still end up going bad. As parents worry, you know?
All right, thank you. Okay, the next question is for Maerine. All right. So this, are you familiar with the Keystone Pipeline?
Yes.
Okay, so the Keystone Pipeline is a pipeline that they are talking about building from Canada all the way down into the United States. Okay, so what that would do, obviously, is reduce the dependence that we have on foreign oil because we pump it from Alaska to the United States, the state in the United States. But however, on the other side, it would tear up millions and millions of miles of protected land out there. And so once I have an environmental concern on the other side, you have a money concern. All right? So should this Keystone Pipeline be built?
I understand that this is a touchy subject just because of all the pros and cons, but you have to realize that every debate has pros and cons. So personally, I'm not for building the Keystone Pipeline just because of all the terrain that's going to be built and where we're going to be getting our oil sources from. And I mean, the high rate of unemployment that will happen once it is built, it's just too much. It's actually, they're talking about it scientifically, they've been doing research. It can cut down the Earth's temperature by degrees of 2.5 Celsius. And I mean, it can also cut down the GDP by 2.5%. So I'm really for not building it.
Jasmine, rebuttal?
Yeah, I agree with her. I mean, basically they're getting oil, and the more oil they get, the lower the gas prices will go down. And because of that, they'll have so much oil, they'll have to lay off a bunch of employees because I mean they don't need them to look for anymore because they have a bunch. So.
Okay. Anything to add, Maerine?
It's not just about the oil cutting down gas prices. You have to realize that there's more in this matter than what's just on the outside.
Next question for Jasmine. Okay, in the aftermath of 9/11, I know you're way young to remember this. In 2001. Okay, so look, one of the things that came about was something called the Patriot Act, which widened the government's ability to spy on its own people, okay, which has never been done before, including tracking your cell phones and text messages and listening to your conversations on the phone and everything. The question that I have, one of the other things is it also allows for the government, based off of this eavesdropping on your conversation, can go in there and search your house and see certain things, right? So should the Patriot Act be declared unconstitutional because it violates a citizen's rights to be free from illegal search and seizure?
Well, I mean, I don't think it should be like that because I mean, if you're being suspected as a terrorist, then they should search you because you know you're suspected as a terrorist. You could do something, and I mean, yes, they're invading your privacy and all that, but I mean, if you have nothing to hide, then you shouldn't worry about it. Don't make a big deal out of it. If you're okay, then just go on with it.
Maerine?
I believe that it should not be declared unconstitutional just because if they have suspicion of you doing something, I mean, yeah, why not? You know, if you're doing stuff that makes you look sketchy, then by all means go ahead and search that person, you know. It just comes down to like she said, if you're not doing anything that is illegal on any terms, then you shouldn't have anything to worry about. I mean, they have that law in place for a reason, or that act in place for a reason.
I do not agree with those.
I remember that student.
Anything to add? Nope. Okay, so we'll move on. All right. So the next question is for Maerine. All right. So as you know, for about 2 years now, this country has been covered by a national health care system. All right. For those people that can't be covered, the national government is covering those, and taxpayers are paying for it. So the question that I have for you is: should everyone in this country be covered by a national health care system, paid for by taxpayers and administered by the national government?
I don't believe that everyone should be paid for, but I do believe that the ones who cannot afford it should find some sort of coverage. But no, not everyone in the government should be under the same health care. If you can afford your own health care, by all means pay for your own health care, but the ones who cannot afford it or don't have the means to afford their health care should get covered by some sort of national health care.
Yeah, I agree with her. I mean, not everyone should pay money for healthcare, and I mean, I know people need it, but I mean, taxes they add up, and people who can't afford insurance.
So you don't agree with her? She's advocating a healthcare system funded by the national government for people who can't afford it. She's saying yes. You're saying that this will raise taxes.
Oh, okay.
So you don't agree with it. You're saying this will raise taxes, and we shouldn't, the healthcare system should do it. So she's for this, what's going on right now, and it sounds to me like you're actually taking the opposite. So is that what you're saying?
I got confused.
Okay, you're fine, go ahead.
Well, yeah, there are some people who can't afford insurance for themselves, and taking more money for them and paying for someone else's healthcare is just kind of, it doesn't make sense. I mean, if they can't afford it for themselves, then why should they give more money to people who can't?
All right. Maureen?
I'm not saying that the people who can't afford it should be paying more taxes. I'm saying that if they can't afford it, they should be the ones being covered by the healthcare.
All right, thank you, Drew. All right, last question. And this one was Maureen, so this one's for you, Jasmine. All right, okay, so, as you know, President Obama had promised to get all combat troops out of Southwest Asia by 2014. Even though all combat troops are gone, we still have troops over there. But the question is, should the president be allowed to send U.S. troops into combat without congressional approval?
I don't think the president should, because one man shouldn't have that much power to tell a bunch of people to go into combat. Because I mean, you have to have the approval of other people, and you have to have their opinion on it. Because if you just send a bunch of other people for your out into combat just for your reasons, then I mean, it's just kind of messed up. I don't know what to say.
All right.
Yeah.
Maureen?
I don't believe that the president should do it without approval, even if he's the president. I believe that that's a very rash decision on his part. He should coincide with Congress to see if they're up for it or with his plan to send more troops. Even though he is the president, I don't believe that he should have that power, so to say, without finding a better word.
All right, anything to add, Jasmine? Okay. All right, so this concludes the question and answer session. We're going to take about the next 5 minutes. You two can ask any question that you want to of each other to make your case for your candidates.
All right.
Any questions?
Earlier during your presidential speech, you said that you would try your best to work on education. What exactly are the key points in education that you would like to work on? Because earlier that was unclear to me.
Well, well, I mean, basically, the school system, I think, I don't want to offend. Yeah, basically, the school system's kind of terrible because they're making us focus on bringing our grades up a lot, and our life is depending on good grades. And and they're issuing all these standardized tests to go with our life, and I think we should fix that.
I understand that, but even if we didn't have standardized tests, you were talking about there should be we're learning. If we're actually learning, what would be there in order to prove that we're learning something? Wouldn't there still be tests?
Well, yes, there would, but they're giving us tests every 3 weeks, and that's a lot of pressure for one kid because they still don't understand in 3 weeks some things. So I'm saying, slow that down a little. Have them learn more, and then if you think they know, give them a test just to see if they actually learned something. Then, I don't know if that makes sense. It's
All right.
better in my head.
Jasmine, any questions for Maureen?
Oh gosh.
So I believe you were for gun control, automatic weapons.
Yeah.
She was not for gun control. She said that, as long as there's proper training, the gun owner's right to have that weapon, but they should be more responsible. So I think the obvious question that you might have for her is, okay, so we're not going to control the automatic weapons. What are we going to do to stem the violence that occurs, mass killings that are going on with automatic weapons? What would you do?
Yeah.
What he said.
Yeah, what he said.
Well, in order to get the automatic weapon, there would be background check procedures, and if you have any history of mental disease or mental disorders in your family, you know, that probably should be a clear indication that maybe you're not so fit for an automatic weapon. And the mental diseases I'm talking about are like schizophrenia and all this, because most, if you look at it, most automatic weapon violence stems from something deeper than that, if you understand what I'm talking about. So if any of that were to happen, I mean, obvious jail, prison, you know, it's the obvious answer. Trial, you know.
All right. All right, let's give both candidates a hand. This concludes our presidential debate. All right, as I said, the election will take place on Wednesday. Campaign committees, you have the next 2 days to campaign for your candidates. To expect to see some posters, some flyers, some campaigning going on. The election will take place in periods 1 through 7. All right, so I expect to, you guys got to get out there and win their votes. All right, so you guys got 5 minutes to the bell.